Hi, I'm Riza Grant, National Beach Volleyball player, and you're watching Scoreboard on ACTN.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to another edition of Scoreboard here on ACTN. It's always a pleasure to be in your company every Tuesday evening where we come into your home, where we talk sports. And, well, you know it's Olympics time, right? So we need to update you with what's happening. And who better people to do that? The regulars. Welcome, guys, to the city of San Fernando.
Thank you very much. Top of the world.
Dennis Allen and the president of the Redman Association. You like that name too bad, eh?
Come now, man.
Give him a little position in Rep 6-8 now, man.
We need to call USAID and some of these other regime change. Yeah. That's the situation. This other regime change.
And of course, George MATHISON is the mayor of Jarvis Street, San Fernando. Mayor.
Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Always glad to be here, George.
Yeah. We're in the early stages of Tokyo
2020.
Is Tokyo 2020 or Tokyo 2021?
That's the branding. You remember they have a whole warehouse of stuff that they had to get off, you know.
All right.
So, officially, the
what's going to happen?
Calls it 2020.
Now, as the Olympics were held a year later, is it that the next Olympics is going to be 3 years?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, 2024.
2024. All right.
Right. So, Tano getting around that. Those brands are registered trademarks. The merchandise and all the different the mascots and all of those things, that production line takes years to develop. So,
but that will be a disadvantage to the next country because
that done set already. Yeah, all of those things done in place.
Remember
already.
But you're only getting 3 years to prepare.
No.
They would have been preparing for how much ever years already. Paris was a well-known. They would have been knowing that they would have been hosting.
So this is 2021.
Right.
They have selected Brisbane for the 2032 Olympics.
Oh, yes, right. Okay, right.
So you generally have 12-year lead-in. So they already know what they're going to do. Hope, by next year, they'll probably have their logos sorted out. They'll have all their things sorted out and all of that. So, but one of the things, we had a conversation, Tia and I, on our radio show with Riza Grant, who is the COVID protocol officer for the TQC. So the first thing about the games last week, the first thing about the games is the strangeness of I suppose the COVID has made everything a little different, you know. And she was talking about the fact that each athlete, each person attending the games, official and/or athlete, had to have a
96 and a 72-hour PCR test.
Yeah. Then what
Negative,
else?
Obviously.
Negative. Then there was also, you had to wear mask at all times inside the games village. You had to,
even if you're in between competitions. So like if you're in the call room and you have to wait on the track, you have to only during your competition.
Yeah. But I realize that they are allowing them a little freedom to take it off for the photos. I saw that with the
I think they're allowing it. I think also
for a certain amount of time.
But what you would have noticed is that while they walk in on the deck, get into the starting blocks, they have it on. If you're watching the volleyball, like I've been watching a lot of the volleyball, they have it on the sidelines. All the players on the sidelines, they have on masks. So they're taking it real seriously.
Yeah, they take it. And I think there was also, she was saying that there was a declaration that was a Tokyo or a Japanese government declaration form that you had to sign, basically stating that you know that you are negative, that you're not coming here knowing that you have tested positive or anything like that. So there are a lot of legal aspects to it. So it's really interesting from that point of view. I think the other thing that's hitting us slowly is no fans.
One of the things that hit me is during the road race, and the road race didn't happen. Parts of the road race didn't happen in the Tokyo prefecture. You would have noticed fans on the side of the road. So the stark, I mean, yes, we understand the politics. Everywhere you go in the world, no matter what you're dealing with humans, you're going to have politics. So I found it really unfortunate that the politics in Tokyo, the Tokyo prefecture wasn't resolved in time, that we could have seen the stance. So like yesterday with the women's, well, the men and the women's triathlon, to see the stark empty stands was really was a downer for me.
But do you think the athletes could really? Yes, they are professionals, right? But do you think that that could be a little disadvantage to them? You know,
I think
that could take away something from your
12th man.
Yeah, that could take away from your Olympic experience. Then
I have to say, I think it works for. In some sports like football and volleyball and some of these sports where the fans have been an element of the game, basketball, you know, I suppose there are plenty more I probably can't call all. I think not having any fans there is definitely, you know, it has to have an effect on some of the players. I think in some of the individual sports, it might be slightly different. So like in that road race scenario, once the road race got going, as Tay was saying, they started in other prefectures and then they ended up in the Tokyo prefecture. But by the time they get to that part where the crux of the race happening, your mind not on if you have fans on the side of the road. Your mind is only on the gold medal at that point.
So this weekend coming up here, the track and field athletics is going to start, right? So I have a couple of friends on Instagram who are throws athletes. They were like, yeah, nobody don't watch you. Get accustomed. They'll be like, nobody don't watch us anyway.
But it's an interesting thing, George. I have a friend in Tokyo, and over the last month we have been having conversations. And she's a Trinidadian, and she was saying, leading into the games, that the politics in Tokyo seemed to be a game of chicken between the Tokyo prefecture and the IOC. And that, you know, a lot of people on the ground in Tokyo thought that the government in Tokyo was trying to see if they could not have the games again, but they did not want to be the ones to pull out. And if the that if the IOC pulled out and said, okay, we can't have the games again, then the IOC would have had to pay the Tokyo prefecture for all the thing. But if the Tokyo people pulled out, then they would have to pay liable to the IOC. And she said a lot of it seemed to, the backlash of that was the fact that in Tokyo, they didn't have a strong vaccination policy. They didn't have a strong system of vaccinations.
And that is specific to that city and to that prefecture. A lot of the other parts of Japan, they've been up to standard. I mean, we have to remember something. Japan is one of the leading technological cities, countries in the world, and Tokyo is one of the top, most advanced cities in the world. So when you hear things like this kind of slow pace of vaccination, you have to realize that there is another factor here. You know, it has to be that the money was an issue, there were logistics, and there were other things like liability issues that I think the politics in Japan, there's a new, what's his name, Suga, he's a new prime minister. Japan, Shinzo Abe was the outgoing prime minister. I think they have a lot of politics that is going on that is affecting what took place and what is taking place here. Like people are talking about the opening ceremony and people are talking about a lot of different things. I mean, the spectacle of what we know to be the Olympic Games. I think my first Olympics that I could really remember would really be coming into the 80s, really. The one that really stood out the most to me is Barcelona. When I really start to think about what that is and LA and what that looked
which
like.
Which is the one that Peter Minchell...
Barcelona and Atlanta,
yes,
right? So that would be 92 and 96.
I think it
was Barcelona and remember Atlanta is when he invented the dancing. Right? So when we start to think about the spectacle of it, this Olympics has really brought a stark reality of what sport is without the hype, without the drive, and most importantly, without the fans. Something that we wanted to talk about here, George, is the business of the sport. You know, 2020, 2021 has shown us that we here in Trinidad and Tobago, we're not getting the sport product properly. We don't understand what it is. We have the administrations pressing for technical excellence. Yes, I've said it before that you don't get penalized for not marketing your event, but if you have technical errors in executing your event, you would get penalized by your world governing body. Yeah. So like if you're track not certified, or you don't have enough officials at your thing, if you don't have a UCI commissar at your track event, etc., you're not going to get sanctioned for your event to be taken place. But if your stand's empty, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Whatever, you know, if you don't put Instagram post and the results, and you know the media is constantly calling somebody on the side of the thing, the team manager, hey Chris, take a picture of the results from now. Let me see what's going on so that you could do your news report, which is what was going on. I mean, we're journalists after all, right? You're not penalized for that, right? But now we're seeing what sports is without the fans. And without the fans, without people watching, what's the show?
Yeah, you don't have a product.
You don't have a product.
You understand? And now we're beginning to realize what's going on.
I wouldn't say you don't have a product, but what you have is a product that is not superior to when the fans are there. Yeah. And it's clear that the fans are a very important ingredient in your product. And if without them, you are missing value to your product, and it lessens the ability of an organizer of a sporting event to ensure or gain sponsorship for that event and to bring money in. And the Olympics generally generates about $3 to $5 billion every 4 years. That's generally what it is. This Olympics might not generate that.
And you know, a big part of that is NBC's money. NBC buys the rights to broadcast in the USA, right? But NBC also leads the international broadcast. A lot of what you see on the ground is because they have invested in creating those images. So if you watch the images, you'll see a lot of those cable cameras, a lot of those, that used to be like, you know, it was a rarity. Now you have them everywhere, every sport. You're seeing it in the skateboarding, which is something we will talk about just now, Chris. I want to get to that skateboarding thing just now.
And surfing.
All right? But, you know, George, the thing is, NBC's viewership is down, according to RT, right, which is Russia Today. RT America is reporting that NBC's viewership is down 30-something% on Rio. So, now, obviously, those ads would have been sold months, maybe even before 2019, they would have been sold because, remember, we rescheduled from 2020. So those ads, most of it, the majority of it would have been sold in the 2019 before 2020 period. But where the viewership is down, the advertisers are going to say, well, am I going to look at what is going to happen for Paris 2024? Am I going to be putting out these millions of dollars to get an ad and something that nobody is watching? The weird thing people are watching too. I mean, one of the local television stations has the broadcast right. I am seeing a lot of feedback, negative feedback on the way that is being consumed. People don't like the broadcast. People are being, I mean, in this modern market, you telling me what I had to watch? People have YouTube, people have Vimeo, people have a million other platforms.
The whole idea, because I saw, I think I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. I sat down for about nearly an hour and a half. I was just watching two women surfing.
Well, and it's interesting that you bring that up, because some years ago, if it's not at Rio, might be Beijing, there was the Canuck model.
Yes, and to me that was...
Which had a number of channels which you turned on, and you could have seen many of your Caribbean athletes.
Definitely, yeah.
Although the feed itself was still coming from NBC or whoever the provider was, but the
commentary.
The commentary was local, and the focus was Caribbean-based, and definitely I thought that still to me stands out as probably the best coverage for us, right? For us, or for Caribbean people. Again, if that is why we haven't done that, I always find weird that you make progress and then you just decide you're not going through with that. So
money, Chris.
You might be right, and I have no idea why that wasn't continued, or why that wasn't done. But in future, what Tay is saying and what I agree with, we had this discussion coming on in the car. you have your product being consumed more on social media sites, platforms. So, you know, there's Twitter TV, there's IGTV. You can consume some of this on Facebook. You will be consuming a lot of it on other platforms as time goes on. Are we now needing to look at these platforms? The NBC version is going to start to look at these platforms and try to work out how the money that NBC would have paid before. Let's say NBC was paying $1 billion for rights to an Olympic event. They can now look at the IOC and say, well, we will pay you $500 million. Because we don't get that $1 billion worth anymore. And now the IOC is going to have to look at these social media platforms and try to work out how best they can get rights money from them, because they are obviously broadcasting. So the model is going to change. The other thing that we haven't talked about that is definitively going to change is the host city model. With the exception of London, all the previous host cities would have lost money, huge money. For China, that's not a problem because they knew that going in. Their investment was not about making money. Their investment was about branding China. And they did that to the maximum at the end of the day. Nobody can say that we know more about China after the we definitely know more about China after the Olympics and prior to the Olympics. And not that we didn't know about China, but we know more about what's happening there, the cars, the culture, how big the business is becoming. People are investing in China. That's what they did that for that. So that was their payoff. London was smart in terms of how they did facilities and how they worked out everything. And but when you look at Rio, it has been an economic disaster. Prior to Rio, there was Greece, economic disaster, massive economic disaster. Sydney was a bare escape. Atlanta, they took a while to recover from that. So going forward, these countries that are going to host the Olympics are asking that the price they have to pay is considerably less. They're asking the IOC for more. So that's going to be combined with the fact that you're getting less from a host city and less from your broadcaster. So now the IOC, where we were getting $5 billion, all of a sudden we're going to have to survive on $3 billion. And the downstream effect of that is us. When you have solidarity funding that is based off of what the IOC makes every Olympics, if that funding drops by 50%, it affects how we here deal with sport, because we are mostly funded by IOC programs.
Yeah, not just that. A lot of the...
I like how you talk. If you was a little shorter, I feel that him both are talking.
I was saying, I know we're about to head to a break, not to take over your duties on the show.
No, you go ahead.
You know, we reddish.
What's me? You go and take the break and everything.
I'll take the break.
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right, so stay tuned. Which camera on? Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Sport. What are we on again?
This scoreboard.
The scoreboard.
Oh, Lord have
it's
mercy.
here. I was going to say spotlight. That's why I bring this shirt on. Because I wanted to remind people, we're doing this thing a long time.
Yeah.
Spotlight, the game plan, and guess what? We right here guest starring on Scoreboard with George Madison, Christopher Gill, and your boy Dennis D. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, viewers. Welcome back to Scoreboard. Yes, I the real host. I see man running this train here. Yeah, Chris, you wanted to Dennis.
Yeah, real running this train.
Every day we calling.
Yeah. We get all kind of thing right tonight.
Yeah, you wanted to.
I just wanted to draw attention to this. No matter what, this was our shirt that we gave away to fans when we were doing Sportline.
Yeah.
And
that's some years back.
That's been a minute, right?
Yeah.
And,
but it just look new.
Yeah, because this was a good quality thing now. But the question of where we are in 2021 with our sport product, so much of what we learned over the last 10, 11 years that we've been doing this is the product that the consumer is getting on the track, on the field, on the pitch. It's pretty much consistent.
Yeah.
But what is missing is the executive vision for where the sport is going to be going forward in terms of how we market it, how we produce it, how we consume it. this is my phone. It's my old iPhone. I'm still going to look for a new product. I'm trying to get the S10. I can't afford a new S11. But if you all want to come on my OnlyFans, we could probably do something. But
what is called it? A
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe.
Right? No. I think I'm pretty enough to get OnlyFans. I go in with Dennis State OnlyFans. But the question of how we do these things, I mean, if we look at it as, what is your federation planning for the next iteration, the next evolution of how your sport is being produced, how the events are being produced, how you as a fan are going to consume this sport? Because we know that the number one fan is in any sport is the athlete. The number one fan for any sport is an athlete that used to play or was still active. That's who we're seeing in the stands in Tokyo, right? And that's who the fans are,
I'll tell you this. So over this last week, I've started looking at something called 100 cricket.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And when it was first mentioned to me, and this goes back to Tay's marketing point, when it was first mentioned to me, I thought, well, why 100?
Yeah,
you already have T20.
Yes.
Why are you making it 100?
It's just 20 balls less than
It's just 20 balls less.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I look at the very first highlights match that I looked at. And immediately, within 10 seconds of looking at it,
your soul.
I say I could understand fully. So what they have done, 100. Anybody in this world understands what 100 balls are. You have 100 balls to score runs.
Yeah.
Not 20 overs, because if I go in America and ask an American what are 20 overs, well, I don't know what that is, right? So 100 is 100. Everybody know what 100 is. Then, instead of bowling 6 balls on over, everybody's bowling 5 balls on over.
Yeah.
And
sounds mathematically correct.
It is. And all the averages and all the stats during the game are based on the 100%. Simplicity. So now the fans can follow. What cricket has done, the English Cricket Board in particular, they have taken the same product. The cricket isn't different. The man bowl, the man whipping it for a 6, it isn't different. But they have turned the product into a form that is consumable to the more fans. You can see many people, especially women, looking on and saying, well, I understand what 100 is. 100 is 100. So you're saying that you have to just score as many runs as you can from 100 balls. Okay, I get that.
You know what? That's cricket. Still not going to watch that.
Nah, you're going to watch it.
I'm still not going to watch that.
Don't worry with this, man.
Okay?
Don't worry with it.
I'm still not going to watch that.
And what Tay is saying is that we need to do the same type of thing with many of our other sports, cycling, football, all of these things. In Trinidad, we have done absolutely nothing regarding the marketing of our nothing. Absolutely nothing.
The fact that in Trinidad, what we have is certain people in position.
Dinosaurs, you mean?
With dinosaurs, over a number of years. So they're just one way. And there is no new ideas or nothing. It's my way.
Or the highway? I'm going to give you a classic example.
Just now, Chris. Judge, how long you've had your YouTube channel?
13 or 14, somewhere around there.
Right. So the point is, almost every week, you upload your show, you upload your episode. Who watch it, you watch it. But it's there, right?
Yeah.
Right? Free hosting. You didn't have to pay a cent for that.
Yeah.
Right? So, sometimes when we put on a little music, you might get a little blip out because the original copyright owner didn't want to. Yeah. Okay, fine. How many other shows, how many other sports talk shows, how many other news shows are on YouTube or on Vimeo or other things? A lot of this, it's just not being broadcast that way. Chris talked about something, the highlights. If you look at what is happening with the highlights packages, we have 100 and something countries participating in Tokyo. But the highlights still only focus on the 3 medalists, the 3 winners. That's not going to make sense to me. Because if I am from Trinidad and Tobago, I might have to wait a long time to see a highlight with a Trinidad and Tobago athlete.
Yeah.
And that's the
Based
problem.
on those
We are not understanding, and the big monoliths of broadcast are not understanding what the product is. The product is what I want to watch. And most of us are watching on our phones. Most of the viewers here, yes, ACTN has a very strong viewership, and we really respect that. That's why we come here. Anytime George calls, we show up, right? We respect that. The viewer is very important, but we like this kind of conversation. But you know what? If I had to do a quick highlight, I just cutting out me because I know my friends, my fans, my audience want to watch me. They want to hear about Chris. As good looking as he is, as good looking and as eloquent as George is, they really want to see me. They want to see my 21-inch dreadlocks.
Because that is, you see, that is how you have to market yourself as a product.
Yes.
Right.
That if you stand up in a group of 20 people, your product must have you higher than them then. So people must see you first.
So let's relate that back to the Olympics for a second. Has TTT, which is the government station.
777.
777 according to T. Who have probably the most archived footage of sports, Trinidad sporting accomplishments, both local and foreign. Did they decide to send a group of television personnel, cameras, reporters or whatever, or even amalgamated them, like CNC, let me call it, this one, let me call it, to go over to Tokyo to record the stories of Trinidad athletes. And Tobago athletes. You telling me that Tennille's ride isn't a story? That's the first time we had a woman ride at the Olympics. That's not a story. Regardless of where she finished, you telling me that we didn't want to record that? We don't want to have that somewhere that 10, 15, 20 years from now, we are looking back at that and showing our younger athletes coming up, male, female, or otherwise. Hey, 20 years ago.
The other problem with what Chris is talking about is rights and licensing, right? The athletes do not own the rights to their image in the Olympics. The local organizing committees do not own the rights. The absolute owner of the rights is the IOC. So if I am going to tell a story as a filmmaker, I want to tell a story about Team TTO over in Tokyo or at any other Olympic Games, that narrative has to be cleared by whatever IOC media decides is suitable to their product. That's not, that can't work. That can't work for me, because if I want to tell a narrative that makes the IOC look bad.
Yes, you can't do it.
Right? I can't do that because it's their product. It's their rights. They can just pull that out and they could, and they need to see it in advance. They need to see the storylines. They need to do all of those things. We need to have a different understanding of what our product is, what our media is, and what we're trying to do over here. I would love to see the day where ACTN could send a team of broadcasters and content creators to an Olympic Games or a World Championships or a Commonwealth Games or whatever, and we put together something so the fans will be like, oh, yeah, but I didn't know that about Tennille. I didn't know that about Jareem. I didn't know that about whoever else, you know what I mean? But you know what? We talk enough about this. I want to hear about Aaron Prince.
Aaron Prince. At age 35.
He joined pension? What's that?
Boxer Pot say.
He is only 35?
Boxer Pot say.
To be honest,
to be honest,
I mean, he's got a lot of cough in your head.
I have been following boxing for some years.
That's what the sport is.
He wasn't a former professional?
No, never.
Never.
And I know these guys from, like, Alexander and all these guys. I know them from the height of the third strand of the ring here. Right? And Prince was always a warrior. He tried already. Right? But I think his approach and his experience was wrong in the fight. Right? First of all, it's 3 rounds you're going. You took the better part of the first round to feel out your opponent, right? Which gave the judges the opportunity to give the other fighter the nod. Right. And some of the holding, right? Prince should have used his experience, right? And come out of that. Now, you saw in the last round where he started to put pressure on the guy and he had the guy going back. That is what he should have done. Even if you take the first minute of the first round to feel out the guy, right? It's 3 rounds you have. That's no time at all. Right? I felt that if the coaches and Prince had a different plan to attack this guy, I feel the decisions could have been reversed. And before I go further too,
okay, go ahead.
Right? In that fight there, right, at least 2 points should have been taken away.
From the other boxer.
From that other boxer, because in amateur boxing, you cannot be holding like that.
Right.
So I think that was a bit harsh on the part of
So in the end, you thought it was a credible performance by Prince?
It was a credible performance, and how I will look at it is that at age 35, right, a Trinidad boxer, right, you didn't get knocked out or
yeah, you weren't embarrassed.
You weren't embarrassed, right? And the last round kind of, because I think on one of the judges' scorecard,
he was ahead.
He was ahead, right? So at 35, the standard of boxing in Trinidad and Tobago is not all that great, right? And
I have to say, I gave, first of all, Boxer Potts, wherever you are, I gave him real talk yesterday because he started telling me how Prince punches like fruit punch and all other things. But the reality of it is, I think we talked about it on our radio show, which is Aaron Prince is 35, and despite the fact Reynald Cox made the point that he qualified for these games, and he qualified by being the highest ranked boxer, and he's quite possibly, without a doubt in our mind, probably the best middleweight Trinidad can produce. At
this point in time.
At this point in time. Yeah. But what we both were saying is, why is a 35-year-old the best that we can produce? And where is the crop of young boxers And so
I don't know if it was wrong.
This is a question we were just asking. We didn't necessarily criticize.
It was wrong when they had this guy from Cuba, Teofilo Stevenson.
Yes.
Right? He never turned pro.
Right.
And he went to Olympics at a pretty advanced age. Right?
No, I think he went to 3. Wasn't it 2 or 3? He went to 3 Olympics.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying that to say this is that in amateur boxing, age really
is a less of a factor.
You
only box in 3 rounds.
But it will be more of a factor for a Trinidadian because our lifestyle and our approach to sports is, although we are amateurs, we don't, outside boxers operate like professionals. If you understand where I'm coming from.
In 2006, where I did have the privilege to go and see the guys in Germany for the World Cup. Dwight York was drawing pension, Russell Latapi was drawing pension, Shaka had an application in.
Inside,
and they were 3 of the best players, not just in Trinidad and Tobago kit.
Right.
They were 3 of the most outstanding players in the tournament. So Dwight York was an example of a player that kept fit. If you watch Dwight now, I'm pretty sure Dwight could run around and put some balls in the goal for Trinidad and Tobago.
If you check the names you called there, they went abroad.
No, I think the point that I was trying to make, though, George, is that age is nothing but a number. If you're taking care of your body,
that's what
if you're putting something into
they went abroad, so they developed a different lifestyle.
All right, okay.
A different lifestyle. But when we in Trinidad here now.
The point Chris was making, though, George, is that where's the pipeline coming?
Yeah.
Where's the next generation? Sure. Where's the next flood of Trinidad and Tobago talent in the ring? I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Well, I spoke to James Beckles last night. He's one of the top referees in the Caribbean. And he did some work with the Olympics. And that's one of the things that I tell him I need to talk to him about because, Michael Alexander is not going to be back in boxing. I am certain that
it's not going to happen in the next 2 years.
In the next 2 or 3 years, because he's going to have to do a lot of tests with boxing. Right? Prince, I heard him in an interview said that based on his performance, he feels he will give it another shot.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well, he only had 3 years. So.
Right. Nigel Paul, well, he's a bit young still, right? But other than that, who are...
Yeah.
Right? And that goes for a lot of our other sports in Trinidad and Tobago.
You know what, though? Just a minute. We have a minute and 54 seconds. That means we could run the whole entire replay of that Venezuelan guy.
Oh, yeah.
We could run the whole replay and
the man
all
last
the analysis.
67 seconds. Boxer Potts, the man last 67 seconds.
Yeah.
The man's story was that he was here doing construction and mixing cement.
Yes.
He was still mixing cement when he was in the ring because he moved slow.
Yeah, but Boxer Potts said that this fella is...
Boxer will rate him up.
Rate him up.
Boxer rate him up because Boxer see him mixing cement and laying brick. He's a very good construction worker. Right. But apparently, that don't work in boxing.
Boy, watch me. I watched the guy.
The man... my father called me and say, listen...
But who was coaching him in Trinidad?
My father called me and say, my father called and say, listen, Chris, the man come in the ring, swing two wild cuff, and then the man watch him like, hey, what are you doing? And hit him, plop, plop, and he was on the ground. He said if that was a fight in school...
Without risking an international...
he said if that was a fight in school, they would have said that the man was bullying him.
Without risking an international foreign affairs incident.
Yeah, but...
I'm not sure. We're not impressed. We're not
sure what's going to happen when he come back here, if he's going to come back, but we certainly will.
To me, Boxer Potts has an issue with Trinidad boxers once he's not in control.
There's definitely a division between Reynold Cox and Boxer Potts. And I think it's not good for boxing.
No.
It's not good for local boxing. And in the end, having spoken to both guys, they obviously want the same thing. Even though they mightn't be able to see eye to eye, it's clear that both of them want the same thing. You know what I mean? I suppose what? I could do the outro. When we come back,
right, that's right.
When we come back, we are going to talk about the rest of the Olympic performances and the ones that we think coming up. You're going to join. This is Scoreboard. You're looking at ACTN TV.
Welcome back, viewers. If you're now joining us, this Scoreboard, we're talking a bit about... We were actually reviewing the Olympics, but we had to put in some important aspects of the whole 2020 Olympics for you to really understand what is taking place, because a lot of us are not really satisfied with the coverage we've seen, so we try our best to kind of explain it, you know, so you have a better understanding. Now, gentlemen, we had the opening, we had Kellyanne carrying the flag.
Right.
You know, there was some negative...
there has been a tad of negative feedback.
You know...
I don't want to say an overwhelming set of negative feedback, but
Is this because of Anil? I think, did Anil make a comment about...
I think Anil might have made a comment on former Minister of Sport, Anil Roberts, but there's definitely been some kind of negative feedback in terms of Kellyanne.
No, hold on. I'm not going to let Anil get off the hook just so.
You don't let me off. I'm just explaining.
Go ahead.
For those who may not know, Kellyanne would have tested positive or would have received sanctions for a positive test back.
For nothing that was ever disclosed.
Yes, but
for nothing that was ever disclosed.
Let me put in this here. Two of them dead, right? So they can't sue me, right? Bonnie Wheeler could tell Bob Marley, don't go in that room there because you just smoke weed. Let me done that commission right there.
So, but personally for me, I like the fact that I think it's her 4th or 5th Olympics. We're not sure. We're not sure on that. I would have liked to see, like many of the other countries, we talked about it, where they had both a male and female flag bearer.
I think...
All I had to ask Anil is, where's Trinidad and Tobago anti-doping, Anil? Where's that, Anil?
I think...
You can't be calling out doped athletes or athletes who've been sanctioned for doping, and then you had the ball, Anil.
Yeah.
You had the ball. Where is Trinidad and Tobago anti-doping?
You can't be calling out dope athletes dope.
Listen. Anyhow, moving on, Kellyanne.
Right.
Kellyanne
our first person was
Chow.
Was Chow.
Yes.
And
Aisha Chow.
Yeah. Well, again, here why they say that. I am sure that in the world there are thousands of people who have tried through their lifetime to qualify for an Olympics.
Yeah.
And they have not done it.
Yeah.
Right? I think sometimes, yes, we want medals, but when you look at her age and qualifying for her 2nd Olympics, I think some credit is ought to be given to her.
Well, rowing is a sport that you can it's a very much an endurance sport, even though it's just like an 8-minute row or 7-minute row. In her case, I think what you have to look at is in terms of world rowers, she's probably up there in the top 100, maybe 200, and that says a lot. But at the Olympics, she's probably not going to make the semifinals. So we have one rower. We don't have a tradition of rowing. We don't have it as a sport here. So a lot, there's no system on infrastructure here that like we have 100 rowers. So that makes it difficult for any athlete to
you know, Chris made a point there. Aisha Chow was 16 seconds, just under 16 seconds, out of the quarter-final round, automatic qualifying. That's not a hell of a long time in sport, but for her sport, it meant that she would have had to row an extra round, and the fact that she had to row an extra round, not a lot of people come out of repecharges and get to medal rounds. That's just facts, right? It could have been a million different reasons. The athlete has to speak for herself. We were just analysts. We sat on the sideline. We could only see what we see and make our own assumptions. As far as I am concerned, Aisha Chow did a really good performance. And looking at the Filipino athlete in the weightlifting who won her country's first medal after 97 years of trying. We here in Trinidad and Tobago take it for granted that everybody put on a kit, going on medal. What is that?
And then they also take it for granted that everybody else that put on a kit that we watching in the games, them just come there for fun.
You know what I mean?
Them liming and partying and listening to soca whole year, and them just turn up at the Olympics to run it. Because
Aaron Prince came out of the box and he went out in the first round, but he went out in the first round of the Olympics. It's not a village games, you know what I mean?
But I have seen that there are other boxers who have better than Prince.
Right.
Yeah,
and they're out too.
They're out. Yeah, they're out. First match.
First match. I mean, the fact is, I think that a lot of what we as a country have built this expectation. Hazley Crawford won gold in 1976, and then Atto did not win gold after several attempts. So Atto understood that winning a gold medal at the Olympics was something very special. And Hazley Crawford, Hazley Crawford is throw shade better than anybody I know. Hazley Crawford, in an interview with Andre Batiste, when he was still on Synergy, said it best, you know. I was glad when I saw Atto competing, and although I really wanted to see Atto and a Trinidadian and Tobago athlete win something, it made people understand how difficult it was for me to win. So it made it special. Each person that does not win a gold medal makes us understand Kishon, how special Kishon is, how special Hazley Crawford is. There is no system that produces excellent consistently, except maybe Jamaica track and field, say.
What I would always say, I remember this quote from Clive Lloyd, who said, when the West Indies team were winning all their matches, they weren't winning because of the West Indies Cricket Board's policy or
they were
development.
Despite of.
They were winning despite their policies. And that is, or in spite of their policies. And that is what happens to all our performers. They are winning in spite of all the obstacles that are put in their place by the sport administrations here, some of the crazy decisions made at sport administration level, the amateurism, the volunteerism, the absolute, some of them you just look and hold your head and think,
sport is a hobby for a lot of our policy.
Exactly.
As we talk about cycling.
Let's jump right into Tennille. What's going on?
Tennille's ride, the course was not a course that would have suited Tennille. That's the bottom line. So in cycling, you have, especially in road racing, you have courses that are flatter, some that are hillier. This was exceptionally hilly course. Tennille is not a noted hill climber in terms of a cycling specialization. So even in road cycling, which is a specialization in itself, there is a specialization of that. Further specialization, there are time trialists, there are people who can sprint.
Why we don't want to make this a
cycling thing
about all the different pros and cons of cycling. The fact is, though, right up until that last climb, Tennille was right there.
Yeah, she was really
She was right there. You know what I mean? Alena, Serena,
a couple of them, yeah.
The Cuban athlete. The fact is, what stood out to me, though, is that the men's race was won by an Ecuadorian. There was two of them in the race. The women's race was won by an Austrian. There was one of them in the race. The rest of these super hitters, you know, all the big names, all the Australians with 1 million cyclists, the Germans and the Dutch teams, the Belgian teams with all of these super powered, they didn't show up, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, it was tactics, preparation, and a will to survive. That Austrian woman, it was barely on the line.
Yeah,
you understand? If you look at the men's triathlon, the guy, he run through there and he vomited the end.
He gave
because
everything.
He had nothing left. So my question is, okay, yes, Tennille understood that this race was delayed by an entire year. She had an extra year to prepare and perform and to get ready for Tokyo.
But I think that this will all go well for her. For her next Olympics, because she's young.
And I agree with that. Tennille is part of the future, the cornerstone of cycling.
She has gotten her feet wet, and she will know what it takes now to compete in a big event like that.
Yeah. We need to have more women thinking like Tennille and being ready and prepared for her moment. And it's unfortunate that, you know, that hell wiped out a lot of athletes. The whole peloton was together, and as soon as that Dutch woman attacked, it was like you start to see them stringing out. They fall out.
I suppose cycling is that type of event. And again, if we are going to produce women if we are going to produce more Tennilles, the reality of Trinidad and Tobago cycling is if we call a race right now in Trinidad, and we said we have a women's category, 3, maybe 4 women might show up. And if you add Tennille and Alexi Costa, who is riding professionally in the States, that's 6.
That's it.
So I always tell people, out of 6 women, we have 2 professional, 1 at the highest level and 1 at what we consider being the level below that.
2, right?
So what would happen if we had 60?
Yeah.
You know, we don't look at that. And then the last person I want to talk about, he has done 3 races, is Andrew Lewis.
No. Andrew is a special breed, and
very much so.
That too is coming back from that accident, right? And I think this is his 2nd Olympics.
Yes, it is.
Right? Yeah. So it have some people make 1 Olympic yet.
And I think what we, with Andrew, from a physical standpoint, is at a massive disadvantage to the other sailors. Kay and I have talked about this again, and you should look at our radio show. People who sail, laser class in particular, and some of these other classes, are fairly tall. And the reason for that is they use their body as a lever. And so, of course, a long lever is always going to be better than a short lever. So that's a reality. And it's a fitness sport. There's no infrastructure or development program for sailing in Trinidad. In fact, the only person pushing a development program for sailing is Andrew Lewis.
Yes.
Down in down by you, Vessigny. He does one in Tobago and he does in Chaguaramas. We need, and so again, if it is that we have 30 sailors and we can produce an Olympian, why are we not investing more in sailing to produce more Olympians? A female sailor.
You gotta go back to the first segment, though. We were talking about a product, right? Let's look at another athlete, Dylan Carter.
Dylan Carter.
Dylan came 4th in his backstroke.
In the backstroke and 3rd.
Yeah, you know, it was a difficult process for him. Usually, we have a lot of expectations of Dylan. I'm not sure where this Olympic performance is going to drop in terms of his personal best, etc. But certainly you see him putting it all out, you know what I mean? And I can't require more of an athlete. You do your best, and I think he's doing his best, and I think the rest of the world is just right now just that much better than us, you know?
Then coming this week, you talked about it. The athletics are going to start.
Yeah, track and field
is our biggest contingent.
Yeah. And you know, Kellyanne and Michelle Yahi are both going to be in the women's 100 meter.
I'm predicting finals for Michelle.
You see, there's the thing. You know, what are we predicting? I know that the best shot that we have at medals, 4x100, I will get licks from Atto for this. I will get licks from a lot of people. I keep saying that 4x100 women, they have something to do over there. They didn't finish in London. They did not. They got DQ'd in Rio. They have something that they want to do. And if they do get it right, I think we in with a good shot. You know, we have one race, and then we make the final, and then it's, you know, all bets off. Anybody could do anything.
Do you think the men's 4x1 have any shot?
Of course. Of course.
And then I think we will make the finals of the 4x4.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think if we make the finals, we will compete. I think Keyshawn is definitely in the range.
Yeah, in the top three.
I think he's in the range for a medal. I can't say. And Tyra Gittins, how you can leave out your girl?
Yeah.
Tyra is definitely going to make the final of the event. And how that event goes is the last 8 make it to the final, right? So Tyra is definitely going to be in there. And like I keep saying, once we're there in the final,
anything can happen.
Any man could play Trinidad. Hey, God is at Trini. We can't play the song, but that's just facts, you know. But regardless of what happens, you know, an Olympic medal is something special, right? We mentioned the Filipino athlete. She got 470,000 pounds, British sterling, not Imbert pesos. Pounds sterling. Right? She has a house and she got what would be 4.7 million Trini dollars.
You know, hey, I want to chip in there quickly to back up where they say, if we do a survey, what has our athletes gotten?
That's a next show by itself.
Yeah,
George, we're going to have to do that show.
I think what we need to do is to sit down there and do a show and see
the economics
from day one to now what all that we have done, the silver medals, the Gold Cup football. What have these footballers or athletes received? And let's see if we can match up with what other athletes get.
Before we wrap up the show, George,
you have 2 minutes.
I want to say something. If we look around social media, we're going to see a lot of brands trying to capitalize on it. You'll see gold medals, but of course it's just a medal. It wouldn't have the rings on it. You'll see certain types of ring types, motifs. You'll see certain colors being used. These people are not sponsoring Trinidad and Tobago sport. Do not buy their products. It's really that simple.
Right? Just before
you're lining up for chicken around the corner, every doubles man that passes have a line. These people do not sponsor Trinidad and Tobago sports. Do not buy their products.
I will say before we go to, just wanted to say the last sport that we didn't talk about is track cycling. We have Nico Paul and Kwesi Brown. They're going to be in action. I believe it starts this week. And I think certainly in the Karen, I think both have a chance. And the sprint is going to be difficult for Nico Paul because the guys are really cranking it up. So
but again, too, he's pretty young.
He is. And this is his first Olympics.
Exactly. Ready.
This is his first.
I feel he could pull a surprise, you know.
It's not impossible. And I think, again, he's up there with the best. And he is one of the best. Going back, I want to tell people of Trinidad and Tobago, sport is a product. And we need to start treating it.
We're still waiting on the direction from the Ministry of Sport.
Sport is our product.
On COVID prevention, how sport is going to open.
And what we need to do is make sure that we start as fans demanding that people like Tia are saying, our corporate citizens invest in that product.
Because they want to capitalize. They want to put out the social media. They don't pay me, right? They're not paying Chris. They're not playing. They have ads on the station from these people. Do not buy their products. Do not line up to go and patronize them, right? Most of these products are not healthy. And none of them are spending money on our athletes. Why are we doing this?
And then the really strange thing, listen to the people who always complain about the 1%.
Oh, gosh.
Who stands in front of churches chicken and
I didn't want to call these
Why you gone there, George? Why you gone there, George?
But George called it. George called it. I'm just saying, he called it.
I hear you. Well, we have 33 seconds.
You know what never closed down during the lockdown? Fruit stands. They didn't close down.
Gentlemen.
So go and get your fruit.
Go and get your fruits, man.
We have come to the end of the program. this is not the end, really. This is
I feel we're going to be back soon, George.
We're going to be back sooner than you expected with these guys here because we have a lot to talk about, still to talk about. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure having you all in South.
Thank you, man.
Right? And I look forward to having you all soon again.
We'll be back.
There's a lot to talk about. Viewers, we run out of time. You know where to catch us. Just switch on and catch us. We're gone. See you next week.